Evan's heart raced as he stood in the grand chamber of the Zetherian royal palace. The walls shimmered with a soft blue glow, and every surface reflected a subtle pattern of light shifting like liquid crystal. He adjusted his uniform nervously, smoothing the creases that weren't there. Today was the day he was to present humanity's most advanced technology to the rulers of Zetheria, the twin queens Lyra and Selene. It was a rare honor. Humans had only recently made contact with Zetheria, a planet known for its extraordinary intelligence and strict protocols. Their culture valued precision, control, and calm observation. Mistakes were frowned upon, and first impressions mattered more than anything. Evan was aware that one small error could ruin not just his reputation, but the fragile trust between Earth and Zetheria. He took a deep breath, trying to steady his hands. In front of him, a holographic display floated mid-air, showing schematics of human technology, advanced energy shields, communication devices, and propulsion systems. The artifact he carried was a small palm-sized cube, capable of self-assembling into multiple functional devices. The queens had requested a demonstration, and Evan had spent weeks preparing every line, every gesture, every word. "Deep breaths, Evan," he whispered under his breath. "You can do this." The chamber doors opened with a soft hum, and a wave of golden light spilled into the room. Advisors, guards, and high-ranking Zetherians filled the hall, their expressions unreadable. Then the twin queens entered. Lyra and Selene moved with perfect symmetry. Lyra on the left had piercing silver eyes that seemed to see through to the truth of a person's heart. Selene on the right had a calm, analytical gaze, almost as if she were calculating probabilities for every possible outcome of the day. Their flowing robes shimmered with the same shifting patterns as the walls, giving the impression that they were part of the palace itself. Evan swallowed hard. He bowed deeply. "Your Majesties, it is an honor to present to you humanity's latest technological advancement." The queens nodded slightly, acknowledging his greeting. A soft hum of conversation settled into silence as all attention turned to him. This was the moment. He had rehearsed this 100 times in his quarters, imagining every question, every reaction. He activated the holographic display, and the human artifact floated above his palm, unfolding into a delicate framework of shimmering components. The audience murmured softly, clearly impressed. Evan felt a small surge of pride. Maybe he could do this. Then, without warning, a sudden flicker of light streaked across the holographic display. Evan's eyes widened. The interface had glitched. A panel appeared that he had never intended to show, a classified schematic of a new energy source, one that humans had kept hidden even from allies. Panic gripped him. No, he muttered under his breath, trying to reverse the display. But the more he pressed, the more panels unfolded, revealing the secret technology. The room fell silent. Advisors gasped. Some muttered warnings to one another. All eyes turned to the human envoy, frozen in place as if time had stopped. Evan's face burned red with shame. He wanted to sink into the floor and disappear. Humanity's secrets were laid bare, and he had done it in front of the twin queens. His mind raced. This could end everything. They could reject the alliance, view humans as untrustworthy, or even consider humanity a threat. He looked up, expecting anger, fury, or at least stern disappointment. Instead, he saw something that made him pause. Lyra's silver eyes were focused, but not with anger. She leaned slightly forward, studying him. Selene's gaze was analytical, calm, almost unreadable. The queens exchanged a subtle glance as if silently communicating. There was no shouting, no immediate reprimand, just observation. Evan's mind screamed, "Why aren't they angry? They should be furious." The silence stretched. His palms sweated and the artifact trembled slightly. He tried to close the display, fumbling with the controls, but the interface resisted. Every attempt only made more panels appear. The audience watched in tense fascination. Finally, Selene spoke, her voice soft but carrying a weight that filled the room. "You're human?" Evan nodded quickly. "Yes, Your Majesty. I apologize. This was not meant to be seen. It's classified, completely confidential." Lyra's lips curved slightly. Not a smile, but a hint of intrigue. "Interesting," she said. "Your species creates such technology and yet struggles to control its presentation. Fascinating combination." Evan blinked. He didn't understand. Was that a praise or sarcasm? He felt his knees weaken. Selene leaned forward slightly, her voice calm. "Explain." Why was this exposed? Evan swallowed hard. He took a shaky breath and began explaining the malfunction. It was an accident, Your Majesty. The holographic interface. It glitched. I did not intend to reveal this. He stopped. Every word felt clumsy, inadequate. How could he convey the importance of what had just been exposed without sounding weak or foolish? Lyra held up her hand, stopping him. Enough, she said. Her tone carried authority that silenced even the whispering advisors. We are not angry, but we are observing. This exposure tells us more than words could. Evan froze. He had expected anger, punishment, perhaps even the end of the human delegation. But the twin queens were silent now, watching, calculating, as if assessing not the mistake itself, but the person who made it. He realized with a jolt that they were judging him, and through him, humanity. The artifact hovered, shimmering. Evan felt every eye in the room on him, but the focus of the twin queens was different. They were looking past the artifact, past the mistake, straight into his resolve. Minutes passed like hours. Evan could feel his panic rising, yet he also sensed something unusual. The queens were not dismissing him, nor were they punishing him. They were curious. Finally, Lyra spoke again, her voice steady. Human ingenuity is unpredictable. Your species surprises easily, and yet there is courage here. She gestured subtly at the exposed technology. Many would hide, flee, or beg for forgiveness. You face this openly, that is, worthy of observation. Evan blinked. His heart leapt. Could they mean it? Could they truly see value in his honesty and presence even after this catastrophic mistake? Celine's gaze softened just slightly but remained precise. We wish to understand this fully, not just the artifact but the human mind that created it. There is potential here. Dangerous perhaps, but potential nonetheless. Evan felt a mixture of relief and awe. He could not believe what he was hearing. The queens were not angry. They were intrigued. The very mistake he feared might have ended everything was instead opening a door. He bowed deeply again, trying to steady his voice. Thank you, Your Majesties. I am honored. I will do whatever is required to demonstrate humanity's integrity and capability. Lyra nodded. We will see, human. We will see. With that, the ceremony concluded, but the atmosphere had shifted. What had begun as a moment of panic had transformed into an unexpected opportunity. Evan's hands still trembled, but now with anticipation rather than fear. As he left the chamber, escorted by Zetherian aides, he reflected on the strange turn of events. One small mistake, one accidental exposure, had revealed not weakness, but a chance for humans to prove themselves in ways words never could. Outside, the palace garden stretched endlessly, glowing softly under the twin moons of Zetheria. Evan walked slowly, thinking about what lay ahead. The twin queens were not easily impressed, but their curiosity had been piqued. That was more than he could have hoped for. Somehow, he knew that this accidental mistake would mark the beginning of something far larger than he had imagined. A test, a challenge, and perhaps a chance for humanity to show that courage, intelligence, and honesty could shine even in the face of fear. And he realized with a shiver that the eyes of two of the most powerful beings in the galaxy were now watching him. Closely, carefully, and perhaps with respect. Evan had made a mistake, but it was only the beginning. Evan stood outside the grand chamber, his palms still sweating. The doors had closed behind him, leaving the murmurs of the advisors fading into silence. He could feel his heart pounding in his chest. The artifact still hovered in his hand, harmless now, yet he could not shake the image of the twin queens' calm, observing faces. For a moment he wondered if he had imagined their intrigue. But no, he had seen it. Lyra's silver eyes had studied him like a scientist examining an unknown species. Celine's gaze had analyzed every movement he made, every reaction. Neither of them had judged him rashly, nor had they shown fear. Instead, they were thinking, calculating, evaluating. Evan took a deep breath and tried to calm his mind. This was no ordinary meeting. The twin queens were known across galaxies for their intelligence and patience. Their silence was deliberate. They did not act on impulse. Every gesture, every word, every pause held meaning. Evan realized that surviving their scrutiny required more than explanation. It required patience, clarity, and courage. He was escorted to a side chamber, a long hall lined with transparent panels that revealed the palace gardens outside. The gardens were unlike anything he had ever seen. Bioluminescent plants swayed gently even though there was no wind. Streams of water shimmered like liquid crystal under the light of Zytheria's twin moons. The beauty of it was almost distracting, yet Evan could not take his eyes off the doors that led back to the chamber. Minutes passed. Advisors and aides murmured quietly among themselves, but Evan barely heard them. He tried to replay the moment in his mind. The accidental exposure, the panels of classified technology, the silence, the curiosity. A soft chime echoed through the chamber. Evan turned to see a small holopad floating toward him. A message appeared. "The Twin Queens request your presence in the observation room." He swallowed hard. The observation room. This was where the Queens held private audiences to assess delicate matters. Only high-ranking officials and exceptional beings were allowed entry. And now he, the human envoy, was being summoned. Evan approached the doors, his steps cautious. As he entered, the room seemed even larger than he had imagined. Circular platforms floated above the floor, each displaying different holographic data, from planetary maps to technological schematics. But at the center of it all, two figures waited. Lyra and Celine. Lyra's expression was calm, almost unreadable. Celine's eyes, however, seemed to pierce through Evan as if she were seeing the thoughts racing through his mind. "Sit," Lyra said, her voice soft yet firm. Evan obeyed, lowering himself onto a smooth chair that seemed to mold perfectly to his shape. Celine tilted her head slightly, her fingers lightly touching the holographic panels. "Human," she said, "you have presented us with something unexpected. Tell us, what do you feel now?" Evan hesitated. He had rehearsed words, phrases, and explanations, but none seemed right. He had to be honest. I feel ashamed, Your Majesties. I did not mean to expose this technology. It was not meant for your eyes, and I fear I may have damaged trust between our species." Lyra's silver eyes narrowed slightly, but there was no anger. "Shame is natural," she said, "but it is also limited to the perspective of the one who errs. We do not judge only by mistakes. We judge by action, by response, and by courage." Evan blinked. Courage? He had been terrified, trembling, panicked. How could that be considered courage? Celine's voice was calm, precise. "Fear is not weakness. It is the recognition of challenge. Courage is choosing action despite fear. You did not hide, you did not flee, and you faced us openly. That is a rare quality among those we encounter." Evan felt his chest tighten. He had not expected praise, only anger, disappointment, or rejection. But here was a lesson he had never imagined. Truth and honesty mattered more than perfection. Lyra gestured to the artifact floating between them. "This device," she said, "reveals more than function. It reveals intention. Humans have created something powerful, something that could influence entire worlds. Yet it is clear that your intent is to share knowledge, not dominate. That distinction is critical." Evan nodded, unsure what to say. Words seemed inadequate. He could only hope they understood. Celine's gaze lingered on him. "We observe not just the artifact, but the mind behind it. Humans are known for creativity and adaptability. This incident confirms both. You responded under pressure, made no attempt to deceive, and remained calm despite inner turmoil. That is valuable." Evan felt a flicker of hope. Perhaps humanity could prove itself worthy of trust. Perhaps this mistake was not the end, but a beginning. Lyra's voice broke the silence. "We are considering a partnership, one that would allow humans and Zytherians to collaborate. The technology you revealed may serve as a bridge between our species. But before that, we must understand your capabilities fully, your reasoning, your creativity, and your adaptability." Evan's heart skipped a beat. A partnership? With the Twin Queens? This was beyond anything he had hoped for. But he also understood the gravity of the request. One wrong move, one misstep, and it could all collapse. Celine added, "We will provide scenarios, tests, and challenges. Your response will demonstrate whether humans are capable of partnership on equal footing. Are you prepared for such trials?" Evan took a deep breath. "Yes, Your Majesties. I will do my best to prove humanity's worth." Lyra inclined her head slightly, a subtle gesture of approval. "Good, let us begin." The room shifted. Panels rearranged themselves to display a series of holographic challenges, simulations of resource allocation, ethical dilemmas, and technological puzzles. Each was designed to test creativity, problem-solving, and integrity. Evan studied the first challenge. It involved stabilizing a collapsing energy grid on a virtual planet. The simulation required precise calculations, quick thinking, and careful judgment. Hesitation could lead to catastrophic failure. He felt a bead of sweat run down his temple. Yet, as he engaged with the challenge, something remarkable happened. His fear transformed into focus. Every lesson from Earth's training, every experience, every problem he had ever solved came together. His hands moved steadily, his mind working faster than ever before. The twin queens observed in silence, their expressions unchanged yet attentive. They did not offer guidance, did not interfere. They simply watched, recording every decision, every adjustment. Hours passed. Evan tackled each simulation with determination. Some were straightforward, others were nearly impossible. At times he failed only to adjust and try again. Each failure taught him more, and the queens noted every response. Finally, the last simulation concluded. Evan exhaled, exhausted but exhilarated. He looked at the queens, unsure of what they thought. Lyra's silver eyes met his. "You have performed admirably," she said. "Not without error, but with adaptability, resilience, and intelligence. Your species possesses qualities that may prove invaluable." Selene nodded. "Observation complete. We have seen courage, ingenuity, and honesty. These are the traits we value most. Your accidental exposure revealed your capabilities, but also your character. That is far more important." Evan felt a wave of relief and pride. The mistakes of earlier had not destroyed his mission. They had revealed something deeper, humanity's potential. Lyra's gaze softened slightly. "We will consider the next steps carefully. But know this, human, one error does not define your species. Your response does," Selene added. "And so far the response has been impressive." Evan bowed deeply, unable to hide his gratitude. "Thank you, Your Majesties. I will continue to serve humanity with integrity and dedication." The queens exchanged a subtle glance, then stepped back. "This concludes today's observation," Lyra said. "Rest now. More will follow. You have begun to demonstrate the qualities we seek. That is a good start." As Evan left the observation room, escorted back to his quarters, he felt a mixture of exhaustion and hope. What had begun as a terrifying mistake had become a chance for humanity to prove its worth. He understood now that the twin queens did not seek perfection. They sought honesty, courage, and adaptability. And in those qualities, humans could shine. Outside the palace, the gardens glowed under the twin moons, the bioluminescent plants casting soft shadows on the paths. Evan paused to look at the serene beauty of Zetheria, feeling a renewed sense of purpose. The path ahead would not be easy. Challenges awaited, tests of character and skill. But for the first time, he felt that humans were not merely visitors in this galaxy. They could be allies, contributors, and perhaps even partners of equal standing. Evan took a deep breath and stepped forward, ready to face whatever the twin queens would ask next. The accident had been frightening, yes, but it had also opened a door, one that he would walk through with courage, intelligence, and determination. And in the quiet glow of Zetheria's gardens, Evan realized that the most important part of the journey had only just begun. Evan returned to his quarters after the observation session, but sleep would not come. His mind replayed every detail, the calm eyes of the twin queens, the way Lyra and Selene had examined not just the technology, but him. Every mistake, every hesitation, every small success had been recorded in their silent assessment. He sat at the edge of his bed, staring at the artifact lying on the table. Its surfaces shimmered softly like a liquid mirror. The technology had almost caused disaster, yet now it felt like a key to a future that humans had only dreamed of. A soft chime interrupted his thoughts. A holographic message floated above the table. It was from the twin queens. Evan's heart leapt. "Human Evan," the message read. "Report to the Royal Council Chamber. You are requested for a formal discussion. Immediate attendance is required." Evan straightened. His pulse quickened, but this time it was not fear. It was anticipation. Whatever awaited him, it would shape the course of humanity's future with Zetheria. He entered the Royal Council Chamber, a vast room with a high ceiling that seemed to stretch into the sky. Holographic projections of distant planets, stars, and interstellar trade routes rotated slowly above him. At the far end, the twin queens waited, seated on their elevated thrones, their presence commanding yet graceful. "Human Evan, Lyra said, her silver eyes fixed on him. "You have completed the observations. We are impressed by your resilience, adaptability, and honesty. It is rare to see a species confront its own mistakes with such composure." Celine's gaze was calm, analytical, but with a faint hint of warmth. "And yet, observations alone do not advance understanding. We require action, collaboration, and trust. Therefore," she paused for emphasis, "we propose a joint initiative. You will lead a human team, working alongside Zetherian experts to develop and enhance the technology you revealed." Evan's mouth went dry. He blinked rapidly, unable to believe what he had just heard. "You want me to lead a collaboration? With Zetherian scientists?" he stammered. Lyra inclined her head. "Yes, we believe humanity has qualities that complement our own: creativity, ingenuity, and courage. This project will test and strengthen our alliance. It will also determine the potential for long-term collaboration between our species." Evan took a deep breath. The weight of the responsibility pressed upon him, but beneath it a spark of excitement grew. This was beyond any assignment he had imagined. It was a chance to prove that humans could rise above mistakes, to demonstrate capability and integrity on an interstellar stage. I accept," he said, his voice steady despite the whirlwind of thoughts in his mind. "I will do my best to lead humanity in this collaboration and prove our worth." Celine's eyes softened slightly, her precise features relaxed in a rare expression of approval. "Very well. We will begin immediately. You will be paired with Zetherian engineers, scientists, and strategists. You will face challenges designed to test your judgment, problem-solving, and creativity. Your success or failure will shape the future of human-Zetherian relations." Lyra added, "Do not fear mistakes, human. What matters is not the absence of error, but the ability to respond effectively, adapt, and learn. That quality will be the true measure of success." Evan nodded. He felt a surge of determination. Fear was still present, but it no longer ruled him. Now it was a tool, a reminder of the stakes, and a push to act with focus and intelligence. The first step of the initiative involved familiarization with Zetherian laboratories. Evan was guided through the halls of the Royal Research Complex, where advanced devices floated in mid-air, and experiments that seemed impossible on Earth were routine here. Energy fields glowed in soft blues and greens. Holographic interfaces projected three-dimensional data streams, and robotic assistants moved gracefully, almost as if alive. Zetherian scientists, tall and slender with iridescent skin, greeted him with quiet curiosity. Some offered nods of acknowledgement, others simply observed silently. Evan understood that this was their way of testing him, gauging how a human might integrate into their systems, how quickly he could learn, and whether he could maintain composure in unfamiliar environments. His first challenge arrived quickly. Lyra and Celine explained that the project would enhance the artifact's energy efficiency, making it capable of operating in extreme environments: space, deep water, and hostile planetary atmospheres. The work required precision, creativity, and collaboration. Evan was paired with Terrace, a Zetherian engineer renowned for problem-solving under pressure. Terrace was calm, almost stoic, yet his eyes hinted at sharp intelligence. "Human," he said in clear but deliberate English, "we will work together. Follow the logic and do not hesitate to propose ideas. Innovation is valued here, but it must be supported by calculation." Evan nodded. "Understood. I'll do my best." The team worked late into Zetheria's glowing night. Evan observed how Zetherians approached tasks. Every step was methodical, every calculation precise. Initially, he felt out of place. Humans were not always methodical. Intuition often guided their decisions. Yet he quickly realized that his creativity could complement their precision. When Terrace hesitated over a design choice, Evan suggested an unconventional solution. To his surprise, Terrace considered it seriously, adjusting the calculations to integrate the idea. Hours turned into days. The artifact's design evolved rapidly under the combined efforts of humans and Zetherians. Evan began to understand the rhythm of collaboration. Listen, adapt, and contribute boldly when appropriate. Slowly, the initial tension eased. Mutual respect developed. Terrace even offered a small smile, a rare gesture among his kind. Meanwhile, Lyra and Celine observed from their elevated chambers, communicating silently through subtle gestures. They watched Evan's interactions carefully, how he handled criticism, whether he learned from errors and how he motivated both humans and Zetherians. Every decision he made was a reflection of humanity itself. During one intense session, a critical flaw was discovered in the artifact's energy matrix. A miscalculation could cause the device to overload and become irreparably damaged. Panic threatened to rise in Evan's chest, but he took a deep breath, recalling the lessons from the observation room. Fear was not weakness. It was a signal to act wisely. He quickly analyzed the problem, ran simulations, and proposed a solution that balanced safety with efficiency. Terrace implemented it, and the artifact stabilized, glowing steadily. The team exchanged relieved looks. Evan felt a surge of confidence. He realized that collaboration did not mean perfection. It meant combining strengths, learning from weaknesses, and acting decisively. At the end of the first week, Lyra and Celine summoned Evan to report progress. The artifact had been enhanced significantly, exceeding expectations in energy efficiency and adaptability. "You have done well," Lyra said. "The project demonstrates your species' ability to integrate creativity with discipline. Your initial mistake, though serious, has led to an outcome that could not have been achieved otherwise. That is remarkable," Celine added. "Observation continues, but your performance suggests that humanity has qualities we respect: courage, ingenuity, and integrity. These traits will be essential as the project advances. Remember, human, success is not measured only by outcomes, but by approach, reasoning, and collaboration." Evan bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesties. I will continue to lead with diligence and honor." As he left the chamber, he felt a new sense of purpose. The accidental exposure, once terrifying, had become the doorway to a greater opportunity, a chance for humans to prove themselves, not just through technology, but through courage, integrity, and collaboration. Outside, Zetheria's twin moons glimmered softly over the palace gardens. Evan looked up, feeling the enormity of what lay ahead. The path was challenging, filled with unknowns, but he now understood that humanity's greatest strength was its willingness to learn, adapt, and act boldly. For the first time, he felt that humans were not merely visitors in this galaxy. They were partners, capable of contributing in ways even the most advanced species could respect. And with that thought, Evan returned to the laboratories, ready to face the challenges the Twin Queens had set before him, determined to prove that humanity's potential extended far beyond mistakes, beyond fear, and into greatness. The laboratory hummed with energy as Evan entered, artifact in hand. The collaboration with the Zetherians had progressed smoothly in the early stages, but now the Twin Queens had escalated the project. This was no longer just enhancement and observation. It was a test of humanity itself. Lyra and Celine had called it the simulation of extreme conditions. The artifact would be deployed in virtual scenarios that mimicked hostile planetary environments: searing heat, crushing pressure, violent storms, and even unstable gravitational fields. The purpose was clear. The Twin Queens wanted to see how humans and Zetherians could respond under intense pressure, and how Evan, as a human leader, could maintain composure and make decisions that affected both species. Evan swallowed hard. His hands felt clammy, and the memory of his accidental exposure still lingered in his mind. But he also remembered the Queen's words: "Fear is not weakness. Courage is acting despite fear." He squared his shoulders. Humanity's potential would be tested, and he would not falter. The simulation room was vast, cylindrical, with walls of transparent energy panels. Within, holographic landscapes shifted rapidly: volcanic eruptions, swirling storms, jagged mountains, and collapsing structures. Evan and Tara stood at the center alongside a small team of humans and Zetherians, ready to face the scenarios. "The simulation will begin now," Tara said, his voice calm but firm. "Observe carefully, respond decisively, and communicate clearly. Hesitation can result in failure. Are you ready, human?" Evan nodded. "Ready." The first simulation activated. The ground beneath them trembled as holographic lava rivers surged through the terrain. Structures around them shook and fell. Sensors displayed real-time calculations of heat, pressure, and material stress. Evan's mind raced, analyzing possible strategies. "Artifact functions need realignment," he shouted over the simulated roar of the lava. "Focus energy distribution toward stabilizing the field. Human side, monitor heat output. Cytherian side, reinforce structural integrity. Orders were given and executed with precision. The team moved as a single unit, guided by Evan's decisions. Despite the chaos of the simulation, the artifact adapted, dispersing energy efficiently and protecting the team. For the first time, Evan realized the artifact was more than a tool. It was a bridge between humans and Zetherians, reflecting their combined ingenuity. The simulation shifted. Now a violent storm with gravity surges threatened to sweep the team off the virtual platform. Tarsa's precise calculations clashed with Evan's intuitive adjustments. For a moment, tension rose. A misstep could collapse the entire simulation. Trust the data, but be ready to improvise, Evan shouted, recalling the lessons from the Queen's observation room. He guided the human team to adjust the artifact's energy output, while signaling the Zetherians to stabilize the environment. Slowly the storm abated, the platform solidified, and the team held their ground. When the scenario ended, Evan exhaled, sweat dripping down his temple. Terrace nodded at him, a small gesture of approval. Human, your decisions were effective. Efficiency and intuition combined. This is rare among your species. Evan felt a flicker of pride. This was more than survival, it was demonstration. Humanity was showing courage and creativity under extreme conditions. The simulations continued for hours. Each scenario tested different aspects of problem solving: ethical dilemmas, resource allocation under scarcity, communication under interference, and rapid decision-making when lives hung in balance. Evan made mistakes, miscalculations, moments of hesitation. But every time he adapted, learned, and improved. The Zetherians followed his lead with respect, and slowly, a bond of trust began to form. During a particularly harsh scenario, the artifact had to stabilize a collapsing mountain on a planet with fluctuating gravity. Sensors indicated that a wrong calculation could cause a massive implosion. Panic crept into some of the human team members. Evan steadied his voice, keeping his own fear at bay. Focus on the energy matrix. Distribute evenly. Trust the calculations, but adjust for anomalies, he instructed. The artifact shimmered as it responded, stabilizing the mountain. The team watched in awe as the dangerous simulation concluded successfully. Evan's heart pounded. He had faced the possibility of failure head-on, and humans had succeeded. After the day's final simulation, Lyra and Celine summoned him again. Evan stepped into the observation chamber, exhausted but determined. The Queen sat silently, their eyes calm but alert, as if weighing every detail of his performance. Lyra spoke first. You have completed the simulations with effectiveness and courage. Mistakes occurred as expected, but your response was decisive and intelligent. Humanity adapts. That is evident. Celine added, We observed communication, leadership, and judgment under pressure. You guided humans and Zetherians alike, demonstrating qualities of collaboration and resilience. This is essential for any species seeking long-term partnership with Zetheria. Evan bowed deeply. Thank you, Your Majesties. The simulations were challenging, but they showed that humans can act with both courage and intelligence. I am grateful for the opportunity. Lyra's silver eyes softened just a fraction. Opportunity is earned through action, human. You have begun to earn trust, but this is only the beginning. Greater challenges lie ahead, and the true measure of resolve will be how you and your species respond when stakes are real, not simulated. Evan nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility. He understood now that the journey was more than proving technological capability. It was about demonstrating human character. Integrity, courage, collaboration, and adaptability were the keys. Celine inclined her head. Take rest. Analyze your actions. Reflect on strengths and weaknesses. Tomorrow will present scenarios with unpredictable variables, closer to real-world application. Your preparation will be crucial. Evan left the observation chamber feeling a mix of exhaustion and determination. As he walked through the glowing palace corridors, he realized that the accidental exposure of human technology, the event he had feared would be catastrophic, had transformed into a proving ground. Humanity was showing its worth not just through technology, but through action, resilience, and moral strength. In his quarters, he reviewed the simulations, noting every mistake, every successful adjustment, and every moment where human intuition complemented Zetherian precision. The artifact glimmered softly, Almost as if it sensed his resolve, Evan understood that this was no longer just a machine. It was a symbol of potential, a representation of what humans and Zetherians could achieve together. The next day, the challenges intensified. Simulations included interstellar communication disruptions, energy field malfunctions, and moral dilemmas involving life and resource allocation. Each test forced Evan to balance rapid decision-making with ethical judgment. His leadership was tested as never before. At one point, a simulated disaster involved a colony in danger of collapse due to volcanic eruptions. Evan had to decide whether to allocate the artifact's limited energy to stabilize structures or save virtual lives. The pressure was immense. He consulted with Taris, integrating human intuition with Zetherian calculations. The result was a creative solution that minimized damage and saved the virtual population. The twin queens observed silently. Evan felt their scrutiny, weighing each decision, not just the results but the reasoning behind them. He realized that true trust was earned through action, not promises. As the final simulation concluded, Evan felt a quiet sense of triumph. The artifact had survived every challenge. The teams had collaborated successfully, and humans had proven themselves in ways that words alone could not express. Lyra spoke, her voice calm yet commanding. "Your performance has been noted, human." Mistakes occurred as expected, but adaptation and courage prevailed. Humanity is capable of growth, collaboration, and ingenuity. That is essential for long-term alliance. Celine's expression softened slightly, a rare acknowledgement. You have shown that mistakes are not failures when met with honesty and action. You have demonstrated humanity's potential, not only in technology but in character. That is what the Queens value most. Evan bowed deeply. He understood now that humanity's greatest strength was not perfection. It was resilience, courage, and the ability to learn and adapt. The accidental exposure, once a moment of terror, had become the foundation of something greater, a proof that humans could face challenges, earn trust, and rise above fear. As he left the observation chamber, the palace gardens glowed under the twin moons. Evan walked slowly, reflecting on the day's lessons. Humanity was no longer merely observed, it was recognized, and the recognition was not for technology alone but for the courage, intelligence, and integrity that humans could bring to the galaxy. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with trials and decisions that would test humanity in ways never imagined. But for the first time, Evan felt a deep confidence. Humans could rise to the challenge not through perfection, but through determination, collaboration, and courage. And in the quiet glow of Zetheria's twin moons, Evan realized that humanity's resolve had been tested and had begun to shine. Evan stood at the edge of the Royal Observatory, gazing at the vast expanse of stars beyond Zetheria's atmosphere. Months of collaboration had passed since the accidental exposure of human technology. In that time, humanity had moved from being a cautious visitor to a trusted participant in one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. The artifact, once a source of anxiety and potential disaster, had become a symbol of unity. Its capabilities had been enhanced beyond Earth's imagination, not by human ingenuity alone, but by the synergy of humans and Zetherians working side by side. And yet, the most significant transformation had not been in technology. It had been in trust. The twin queens had called for a final demonstration, one that would determine whether humans had earned a lasting alliance. Evan's team had been tasked with stabilizing an artificial planetary environment, a simulation so complex that even Zetherian engineers admitted it pushed the limits of their systems. The stakes were high. Failure could mean public rejection of humanity as partners. Success would solidify their place among Zetheria's closest allies. Evan felt the weight of responsibility pressing on his shoulders, yet he was no longer paralyzed by fear. He had learned that courage was not the absence of fear, but action in spite of it. Every lesson from the observation room, every challenge faced in the laboratories, every simulation under extreme conditions had prepared him for this moment. The chamber was vast, filled with floating holographic platforms and glowing interfaces. Teams of humans and Zetherians moved with precision, their coordination now seamless. Taris, the Zetherian engineer who had first tested Evan's creativity and intuition, nodded to him. "This is the moment, human. Lead wisely." Evan took a deep breath and activated the simulation. The artificial planet formed around them, a world of jagged mountains, volatile rivers, and unpredictable weather systems. Sensors indicated that a miscalculation could destabilize the entire environment. Every eye in the chamber was on him. "Coordinate with your teams," Evan instructed, his voice calm but commanding. "Humans monitor energy distribution. Zetharians reinforce structural stability. We act as one unit. Trust each other." The simulation roared to life. Energy surges threatened to collapse mountains. Rivers of molten liquid raced down slopes and winds howled through narrow valleys. Yet under Evan's guidance, humans and Zetharians acted with precision and courage. Every adjustment of the artifact, every realignment of energy fields, every command issued by Evan was met with immediate response. A sudden instability threatened the planetary core. The platform trembled. Panic flickered in some team members' eyes. Evan steadied himself, recalling all that he had learned. Focus on the energy matrix. Rebalance for fluctuations. Trust calculations, adjust when necessary. The artifact shimmered and pulsed, its energy stabilizing the virtual planet. Mountains held, rivers shifted safely, and storms subsided. The final scenario concluded without catastrophic failure. For a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then applause, human and Zetharian alike, erupted. Lyra and Selene appeared on an elevated platform, their presence commanding yet serene. Lyra's silver eyes sparkled with approval, while Selene's analytical gaze softened with satisfaction. They observed not only the success of the simulation, but the collaboration, leadership, and integrity displayed by the human envoy. "You have done well, human," Lyra said, her voice calm but carrying authority. "What began as an accident, your exposure of technology, has grown into a demonstration of human courage, intelligence, and collaboration. You have shown that mistakes can lead to opportunity when met with honesty and action," Selene continued. "We observed every decision, every adjustment, every moment of courage. Humanity has proven itself not through perfection, but through resilience, creativity, and integrity. These are the qualities we value most in allies." Evan bowed deeply. "Thank you, Your Majesties. Humanity is honored to contribute, and I am proud to have led our teams. We will continue to learn, adapt, and act with integrity in all collaborations." Lyra's gaze softened further. "This concludes our formal evaluation. You have exceeded expectations. Your species has earned not only trust, but respect. Humanity is now recognized as a capable, reliable partner of Zetheria." The chamber erupted in applause once more. Zetharians and humans exchanged smiles, laughter, and nods of mutual admiration. Evan felt a surge of pride and relief. The accidental exposure, the panic, the fear, it had all led to this moment. Humanity had not only survived scrutiny, but had earned a permanent place among Zetheria's allies. Later, in a private audience with the Twin Queens, Evan felt a rare sense of calm. The months of trials had forged something more than success. It had forged trust. "Evan," Lyra said, her voice gentle yet commanding, "you have shown that humanity can rise above fear, learn from mistakes, and act with courage. That is the essence of our respect. We hope that your species will continue to cultivate these qualities." Selene added, "Trust is not given lightly. It is earned through action, integrity, and collaboration. Humanity has begun that journey, and we will observe its growth with interest. We welcome your species as allies, not merely as visitors." Evan bowed, words failing him for the first time in months. He had expected gratitude, yes, but not this deep acknowledgement. Not this recognition of humanity's potential beyond technology, beyond achievement, beyond mere survival. I am speechless, Your Majesties," he said finally. "Thank you for your trust. I will ensure that humanity continues to live up to it." Lyra and Selene shared a subtle glance, their expressions almost mirroring one another. Then Lyra's lips curved into a rare, genuine smile. "Your words reflect your character. That is what we remember most. Not technology, not achievement, but character." Selene's gaze softened. "And that is why you are here, Evan. Not just to show what humans can create, but to show what humans can be." Evan left the audience, walking through the glowing gardens of the palace under Zetheria's twin moons. The bioluminescent plants lit his path with soft, shifting colors, reflecting the serenity he now felt. For the first time, the fear that had plagued him since the accidental exposure was replaced with pride, confidence, and hope. He knew that humanity's journey had only just begun. Challenges would continue and new tests would arise, But now humans had allies, mentors, and partners in the galaxy. The Twin Queen's respect was not merely symbolic. It was a recognition that humans could rise to the occasion, not through perfection but through courage, integrity, and collaboration. As he looked up at the stars, Evan thought of Earth, of the people who had trained, studied, and dreamed of reaching the stars. He thought of the mistakes, the lessons, the triumphs, and the courage that had brought them here. And he realized that humanity was no longer merely an observer of the galaxy. It was a participant, a contributor, a force that could shape the future. In that moment, Evan felt the full weight and joy of responsibility. The accidental exposure, the fear, the trials, it had all been part of a greater path. Humanity had earned a place among Zetheria's trusted allies, and he had helped lead the way. The Twin Queen's final gesture lingered in his mind. Their calm, assessing eyes, the rare smiles, the words of trust and recognition. They had seen the best of humanity, not because everything had gone perfectly, but because humans had risen above their fear, adapted, and acted with courage and integrity. Evan knew that the story of the accidental exposure would be remembered not as a moment of shame, but as the beginning of humanity's place in the galaxy. Mistakes could lead to growth, fear could become courage, and trust could be earned through action. And under the glow of Zetheria's twin moons, with the artifact humming softly by his side, Evan smiled. Humanity had proven itself not by avoiding mistakes, but by rising above them. The stars above seemed brighter that night, as if reflecting the promise of a future where humans and Zetherians worked together, united by respect, courage, and a shared vision for what was possible. Evan knew that this was only the beginning. The galaxy was vast, full of unknowns, challenges, and opportunities. But humanity had taken its first true step into the wider universe, and it had done so with integrity, courage, and the recognition of two of the most powerful beings in the galaxy. And as he walked through the quiet, glowing gardens, he knew one thing for certain: humanity's potential was limitless.